So you managed to get your hands on some Rise of the Floodborn. Alright. But what card should you be hoping to get from the packs? Let's talk about that. Hi everyone, this is D7 from Mushu Report, and Rise of Floodborn is finally here, and I hope you managed to get your hands on some products. As for me, I managed to get an order confirmed only on the very last day, so I'll be able to open my packs around the end of this month, and I hope you join me when I do that box opening video. Alright, so let's move on. So what cards do you actually want to open from your packs? Of course, we want to open our favorite Disney characters, but what cards would you need to actually build up your deck and strengthen your deck you got from the first chapter? We're going to be talking about that. First, we're going to be skipping aside the commons and uncommons because those are pretty easy to find and relatively cheap even if you are getting them as single cards. So let's jump straight into the rare cards, and of course starting off with Amber Ink as always, with the best card of all from the rarity cards in my opinion is Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. So Cinderella Ballroom Sensation is a pretty simple card. It's a 1 cost with 1/2 stats, and she has Singer 3. So she's going to be singing you the latest Disney hits like Friends on the Other Side, World Greatest Criminal Mind, and Let the Storm Rage On. So yeah, she can sing all those songs as a cost 1. So she can really advance your plays really quickly, especially that Friends on the Other Side would really let you get your card draw in quickly, and you don't have to wait until turn 4 to really decide on what cards you have as an option. So yes, Cinderella Ballroom Sensation. She's also the Enchanted, as you can see on the wiki over here. So yeah, this is a great looking card by artwork alone, but the ability wise, I think this makes it a must play for a song deck. Moving on. Mulan Reflecting is another great card for the song deck. Maybe you don't want to play as many copies of her, but she's definitely still beneficial because she actually helps you to check your top deck, and after that you can play it if it's a song card directly. So it really makes it free. So if you put it into your Ember Steel song deck, then you can play your Grab Your Swords or A Whole New World for free. The only main thing to take note of is that she actually will play that card right away. So best to make sure that you're ready in case you actually flip into A Whole New World. Then you're going to be getting that ability right away. So make sure you play all your cards first before you actually play Mulan Reflecting. Either way, Mulan Reflecting is a great card that I think that will actually be played in the Ember Steel song deck, at least maybe 2 copies or so from what I've seen. So yeah, make sure to get your copies of Mulan. Then World's Greatest Criminal Mind is the song that I was talking about, because this is a really great song that was reviewed by The Forbidden Mountain, and this one actually lets you sing at cost 3, and you can banish a chosen character with 5 strength or more, which is really simple because a lot of your big boss characters are all 5 strength or more, and then this is a really efficient way to actually get rid of that character. Aside from that, of course, this is for Amber Ink, so Amber actually has a lot of cards with support. So with support, you can give them additional attack, and that makes them valid for World's Greatest Criminal Mind to just get rid of them from the board. So this is a great card that you definitely want for your rare Ember cards. Moving on, Amethyst, we have Pinocchio Star Attraction, the only 2 costs with 3 law at the moment. So the stats aren't really great, and he can be taken out very easily by, say, a Fighter Cannons or by Hans. But then again, this thing is actually a 2 cost character only, so he's really cheap to play. And of course, right now, this for Amethyst Ink, you actually have a lot of Madam Mims that can bounce back your Pinocchio to hand, and then you can play it again, so he doesn't have to stay exerted for your opponents to challenge into. So that's actually pretty not bad. So I've definitely seen some of the Madam Mim decks trying out Pinocchio. Next, we have Merlin Shapeshifter. I'm not too sure how great a card he is yet, but if you're going to be playing the full-on Madam Mim and Merlin package, then you definitely want to get your hands on a couple of copies of Merlin Shapeshifter, because it's really easy to just get him up to 3 law quickly. So he's a way to actually just stay on the board and you get ready to quest him straight away for 3 law. Of course, he's not very great stats-wise, so I'm not too sure if he's really that great a card to play, but this is one card that is being explored right now in the Madam Mim Merlin, and I'll say that the meta is way too early. The pack just released, so we don't really know which cards are all that great yet. So I would say Merlin Shapeshifter, you'll definitely want to hang on to your copies if you open them inside your pack to just make sure you are ready if this card actually works out inside the deck. Next, we have Gruesome and Grim, of course, for the Merlin package. So play a character with cost 4 or less for free and they gain rush, and at the end of the turn you can banish it. So this is great of course for your Merlin rabbits and also your Merlin goats to actually just rush, take out your opponent's characters, while you can actually gain either 2 lore or you can draw 2 cards if you are using Merlin rabbit or goat. So that's the whole idea. Moving on, we have Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan, which is actually a really interesting card if you think about it, because at 4 cost with 2/3 stats, he is actually evasive. So that's actually pretty strong even if you don't shift into him, because if you think about it, do you really need to shift into him? At 1 cost, you have your Flynn Rider, they shift to him in turn 2, but he wouldn't have any lore at the moment because your opponent is going to have tons of cards in hand. But if you think about it, if you do some math, let's just say your opponent starts first. By turn 4, when you actually play Flynn Rider, he's actually going to be able to quest for 2 lore if you shifted into him. So if you didn't shift into him and you play him normally on turn 4, he's evasive, and when you quest with him on turn 5, there's a good chance, let's just say your opponent is doing the very basic, place 1 card into the Inkwell and playing 1 character or something every single turn, then you'll be able to quest with him for 3 lore by your turn 5, and that's even better than your Tinkerbell, equivalent to your Hans, but he has evasive, so that actually makes him a really strong card to play in my opinion. I would say that this is definitely something that should be considered for the Emerald deck. Next, we have Prince John, Gradius of Awe, which if you haven't seen this card yet or haven't heard about this card yet, where have you been? Because this is the craziest combo card right now with a whole new world that everyone has been trying out and talking about, where when Prince John is on the field and you're playing the whole new world, whatever cards that your opponent discarded from a whole new world, you can actually get to draw those as well. So a whole new world lets you discard all your hand and draw 7, and let's just say your opponent had 3 cards in hand when whole new world is played, they discarded 3. That means Prince John will let you draw 3 cards after a whole new world resolve, and you will actually end up with 10 cards in your hand. So that's pretty crazy amount of advantage. But aside from that, you can also play of course your Hypnotize, you have Forgotten Me, your Sudden Chill, all the ways to just make your opponent discard card, and in return Prince John will let you draw a card. And of course he has Ward as well, so you don't really want to just quest with Prince John. All you need to do is just make your opponent discard using whatever method, then after that you just draw a card in return. Really nice card that you definitely want to get. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo is a fantastic sound card for the Emerald Ink because there's so many advantages. You return a chosen character to your hand and then you play another character at the same cost, and because your hand is private knowledge, nobody really knows what other cards are in there, it's been ruled that you can actually play the same character that you return from your hand because it's treated as another card inside your hand. So with that in mind, there's a lot of ways you can play this. One, you treat it as a healing method. You can actually have a character that's already damaged, he has damage tokens. If it returns to your hand and is played out again by Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, it of course has no damage counters. And even better is that if the character has already exerted for a challenge or for a quest, it goes back to your hand and it comes out in play as a ready state. So the character cannot even be challenged anymore. And that's the idea for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. It's a really simple ability, yet really good, especially if you're going to make use of it for your Cuscos. Just get it back to hand and then play it out again, and it's ready now and it can't be challenged by your opponent's Maui, and you can quest for 3 again. That's actually really effective, especially since it's a song card that can be sung. So yes, what's not to like? I think Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo is a great card you definitely want. Then moving on to Emerald, we have Minnie Mouse Wide-Eyed Diver, which is kind of a similar ability to your Flynn Rider in the sense of she can actually be shifted in turn 2 with 2/3 stats and she has evasive. But the difference is when you play 2 actions in a turn, then she gets to 3 lore. So yeah, there's a maximum, you can't go any higher than 3 lore, the maximum gain is +2. That's actually a pretty good amount of lore that you can gain. And point is, this is 2/3 stats, she has evasive, and of course if you have a lot of action cards to play, then you definitely want to consider getting Minnie Mouse in here. Next, we have Shere Khan, which, yes, this is another crazy card that is really very good for the Ruby Ink, and I'm hoping that it actually changes up the meta so that it's not so full of control, because you can actually now have a lot of characters on the board instead of previously Amethyst Ruby was all filled with just very late game plays. Now Shere Khan actually encourages you to play a lot of characters on the board and just keep on challenging, because every time you challenge, you actually gain 1 lore and it stacks. If you have multiple Shere Khans, you have 2 copies, every single challenge equals to 2 lore. So that is a way you can actually rack up the lore points really quickly. And of course, if you have a character like, say, your Scar that can challenge multiple times, then it's definitely very worth it. Then moving on, we have Dinner Bell. So this is a card that actually potentially lets you draw a lot of cards. Let's just say if it's a goofy Night for a Day that has 10 willpower and he's been damaged down to just 1 willpower left. If you actually just get rid of that goofy, you can actually draw up to 9 cards via Dinner Bell. Of course, this is kind of a bit of a concept in mind, but the whole idea is that it actually works. So this is one card that you do not want to just sell off right away. You want to hang on to it because there's a lot of potential here to be used, especially for the late game control decks. Just get rid of, not say goofy, but of course your Ursula, which already has 8 willpower. So potentially she can give you up to 7 card draw via Dinner Bell. So that's really a lot of cards, which means you will control the game a lot better as a control deck. So yeah, something to definitely consider. Next, we have Strength of a Raging Fire. So this one is one card that is pretty interesting because it actually deals damage to a chosen character equal to the number of characters you have in play. So I would see this definitely as something to be considered for the Ember Steel deck because they actually have quite a few characters in play very consistently. So at the very least, they usually have like 3 characters, which makes this a smash that can be sung. So what's not to like? And of course, you can even do more damage by just having more characters on the board, which if you're leading, then Strength of a Raging Fire is definitely going to help you to get the lead in the game. The only thing to be concerned about is that that's the precise point. It's only when you're leading and you have more characters on the board. If you're behind in the board state, you're kind of top decking and just playing one character a turn, then Strength of a Raging Fire is going to deal probably just that 1 damage and is not very effective for you in that stage. So that's one thing to consider, but this is still a great card nonetheless. Then, of course, we have Weight Set. I keep talking about this because this is the card I got to review, but I still think that is definitely a great card to be played in a Steel deck. Because Steel Ink has a lot of high-strength characters which all fit in the condition for Weight Set. And this is so much better than Beast Mirror because Beast Mirror actually required to have no cards in hand, which means you're constantly doing top decking. So that wasn't fantastic. In comparison, Weight Set, you can just have a full hand and still play characters with high enough strength and you can still draw a card from there. So yeah, you're not kind of in a desperate state top decking half the time with Beast Mirror. Instead, for Weight Set, you're just very consistently able to push the advantage even if you're in the lead. So Weight Set is definitely a much better card to draw with in my opinion. Now, moving on, we go into the super rare, starting off with the Queen Commanding Presence. If you haven't heard about it yet, I think you need to play against some Ember decks because she's already making a lot of presence in the Ember decks. Because she's really easy for you to just gain access to your 5-cost song cards. Because at turn 2, you can shift into her if you have the turn 1 Queen. Then turn 2, you shift into Commanding Presence and you can start seeing your 5 cores with your Grab Your Swords, with your Aladdin's Whole New World, and all that good stuff. Aside from that though, well, she also has a nice ability to just reduce the strength of an opponent's character and give strength to another character, which of course works well with the world's greatest criminal mind. So this is a way that actually the whole thing can come together in especially the Ember Steel Song deck, and yeah, this is a great card. Your only blessing is that this is in the structure deck, so she's actually relatively cheap, and I'll say that there's no excuse for you to not just have 4 copies of it outright and ready for us Ember deck if you need it. Then we have Arthur's Wizard's Apprentice. Personally, I still don't think it's that effective because he actually returns the character to hand, so you're losing out on the board advantage that can build up. Of course, the idea is that you're going to want to quest and get lore really quickly, but then again, you kind of need that character presence at the very beginning to just keep on building up your lore. So I think that he's definitely great if you're going to be playing, say, your 1-cost Maleficent, which is going to give you 2 lore every time she quests, but she's 1/1, she's pretty weak. So the idea is you quest with Maleficent, then after you use Arthur's ability, you quest with him to return that Maleficent back to hand, and you can play her out right away again. She's ready, kind of works out like Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo in that sense. Actually, I don't really like him working out with Merlin. I know the idea is the same, but Merlin's cost a lot more. You want to mainly play your Merlin Rabbit and Merlin Goat, but using a 4-cost character to just gain the advantage, it goes back to your hand. Yeah, I know we have different opinions. I have people in the comments say that what am I talking about, but I'm actually worried that the state is that basically if you do not push the advantage fast enough to gain law really quickly, you're just going to be losing out the game very fast because you're losing that much in board presence. So that's my concern. Sue me if you will, we have different opinions, but yeah. I think that Arthur's Wizard's Apprentice is definitely a pretty good card, but the idea is that if you don't have the right combination in your hand, then you're going to be losing out on a lot of advantage. Next, we have Cheshire Cats from the Shadow, which this one is a very interesting card because you can shift into Cheshire Cat by turn 5, and he's evasive with 5-6 stats and 2 law. Personally, I'm not that sure I really like this card. I know many people love it because he's evasive with the pretty decent stats, and 2 law is really nice, but I kind of feel that 2 law is really not enough for me because the original Cheshire Cat that we are going to be playing with, the 3 cost one mainly, already has 2 law. So maybe a 5 cost would actually be better used playing, say, a Cusco or maybe a Mad Hatter. And there's a lot of nicer now 5 cost Emerald cards that we can play with, like Pete, for example. Pete is actually pretty decent. So yeah, that's the idea. I think that this is a really nice card mainly because he's evasive and you haven't really seen a bigger evasive stat character aside from Mandarin Purple Dragon. But yeah, that aside, I think this is definitely something to be considered for someone who wants to play a pure evasive deck. This is definitely one that you should hang on to if you open it up in your packs. Next, we have the Queen Disguised Peddler. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen that many people play this queen yet because maybe it didn't work out too well for them because you don't really have the best character cards in your hand all the time to make use of it. In theory, this is a 3 cost character that can quest for 4 very easily if you discard some high law characters, but yeah, maybe not the easiest to use. So she's somehow really cheap in my opinion. Actually, that makes it a must buy for me because Emerald Ink currently is a lot of aggro. We actually want to gain law really fast, so I think the queen can actually definitely be considered, especially if you're playing Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan, because yeah, just questing for 4 law, why not? And even if you're discarding a Mad Hatter, a 3 cost character that's questing for 3, that's also a pretty good in my opinion. So yes, definitely something to be considered, but you need to make sure you have the amount of arsenal for it. You want to have a lot of cards in hand. So maybe the best way to play the queen is actually combined with Prince John, where he's constantly replenishing your hand. Moving on, we have Lady Tremaine, Imperious Queen, another card that's actually pretty low in price right now because her ability, I would say, is just decent because you don't actually get to control what character that your opponent banishes. But I think that this is something that should be considered. You can actually buy in because maybe hopefully they release better Lady Tremaines that will let you shift into her really easily at shift 4. And that said, she can actually get rid of all the ward characters as you see more of them showing up with your Rise of Floodborn. Then yeah, you definitely actually want to consider this because she's the only one that can outright take out a Cusco without any fuss, as long as the Cusco on your opponent's field is the only character on their field. So yeah, I would say that this one is actually something you might want to consider just getting more copies of and just buying singles because yeah, they're pretty low price right now. Then we have Cogsworth Grandfather Clock, which this one is a really nice card that actually gives everyone resist +1, and I've seen it really work pretty well in Sapphire decks. Giving everyone resist while he's ward on his own means that you can just leave him unexerted and you just have him standing there providing resist to everyone, and it's really pretty funny if you see Grab Your Swords being played and everybody is only taking 1 damage and that's hardly anything. Your stuff pretty much survives, and yeah, Cogsworth is really pretty nice. So this is one card I will say that is definitely worth it to actually get more for Sapphire Ink. Then we have Grandpappy, Oldest and Wisest, which if you haven't heard of the ruling yet, here it is for you. When you remove 1 or more damage from one of your characters, you gain 2 law, which means, let's just say Gumbo Pot, which actually removes 1 damage counter from 2 characters, then he'll give you 4 law. Grandpappy, this Troll King, will give you 4 law. So that's the ruling and that's how it works, which is a really nice card. That means that you can actually rack up your law counts really quickly in the right situation with, say, your Hakuna Matata and all that. There's definitely people trying out healing decks. Personally, I don't think he's that effective at the moment. He's kind of like Tamatoa in my opinion, where there's this nice cool ability that Grandpappy can actually give you, but it's just, you know, it doesn't work out too well at the moment. There are a couple more healing ways with, let's say, Rapunzel and Gumbo Pot that actually got brought to the table with this Rise of Floodborn, but yeah, I think that you should hang on to this, and maybe when the price goes down for Grandpa B, you can get a few more copies. But for me right now, I think that this is not that effective a deck. You should hang on to it and wait out for the set 3, and hopefully that he gets even better with maybe more healing cards and ways to actually make your own characters get damage. Next, we have Cinderella Stout-Hearted, the best super rare that you definitely want. And pretty much works out very well for Amber Steel Song because Cinderella Ballroom Sensation, which you can now shift 5 into Cinderella Stout-Hearted. She has Resist +2, which makes her really sturdy. It's really not easy to get rid of her unless you have some direct remover like World's Greatest Criminal Mind or Dragonfire, Let It Go, that kind of stuff. But aside from that, she's really going to stay on your board very long. And of course, when you play a song, she can actually challenge a ready character. So she still has to wait for the ink to dry, but aside from that, challenging a ready character means that you can get rid of your opponent's stuff before they can even get to use their ability. So yeah, this is a really strong card that is definitely a must play in my opinion if you're playing a steel deck. So yes. And that's the super rares. Moving on. Then for legendaries, we have Snow White Well-Wisher. So this one, whenever she quests, you can return a character card from your discard back to your hand. And I think that this is actually a really good card. At the moment, maybe she's not really being used because there isn't a very good way to just get all your characters into your discard pile. But I think that there should be better ways coming up eventually. Right now, there's only stuff like A Whole New World, or you can be playing, say, your Cinderella Knight in Training, your Huntsman. That's the only way you can get your cards into your discard pile at the moment. And then Snow White just retrieves them back really quickly. But other than that, she doesn't have any real good defining strategies at the moment. I would say that you should actually hang on to her if you manage to get her, maybe even get more copies, especially since she has a very nice enchanted version. And yeah, because I think that she may be not being played right now, but when there's more Snow Whites, there's definitely more Snow Whites coming out. She's a Disney princess. So yeah, when there's a better efficient Snow White coming out, that makes it easier to shift into this Snow White Well-Wisher. At that time, you're going to feel that why didn't you get more copies of Snow White Well-Wisher? So this is one card you definitely want to open, and I would say that she's definitely a great card to consider getting your playset of. Next, you have Fairy Godmother Mystic Armor. So this is the really one card that is very interesting because this is a shift 2. You can pay just 2 ink to play her on top of another Fairy Godmother. Of course, the Fairy Godmother's costs are all pretty high right now, but that's besides the point. The main idea is that whenever she quests, you can give all your characters Challenger +3, and when this character is banished in the challenge, return this card to your hand. Basically, all of them become Hei-Heis. That's it. All of them become this very fantastic, new, powerful, and beautiful Hei-Hei. Because all of them, when they get banished in a challenge, they get returned back to hand, and you can just play them out again. And they're going to be really cheap simply because you only played Shift 2 for this Fairy Godmother. That's really nice. So that's the idea. And of course, they have the Challenger tree as well. That makes it easy for you to take out the opponent's board and then get them all back to hand. You play them all out again. And yeah, you're going to be controlling the board from there. Fairy Godmother is something that I would say should definitely be considered. You should definitely try to get your playset if possible for the Fairy Godmother set. Maybe she's not working out that well right now because the other Fairy Godmother's costs are pretty high. I'm not so sure. I haven't really seen anyone pilot this card yet, although a lot of people are talking about it. And yeah, definitely something you should want to consider. Beast Relentless, the craziest combo card that Steve Warner reviewed to all of us during the convention, and after that everybody just been talking about it because there's so many ways to just ready Beast Relentless. You just need to just hit into a character and you get to ready him. If you just use a fighter cannons or use your Hans 13 Prince, you use your Plasma Blaster, so many ways. Even just one of your other characters just challenging also get to ready Beast Relentless. The only issue is, of course, whenever your opponent is going to see Beast Relentless come into play, they're going to try to keep their stuff ready as much as possible because they don't want to make it that easy for you to just ready Beast Relentless by sending all your other characters to just charge into their characters instead. So you're going to have to rely more on your other abilities like your Grab Your Sword and Fighter Cannons, Smash and all that kind of stuff to just ready Beast Relentless, but he's going to be easily gaining you 6 claw or even more by the time you play him on the following turn. And yeah, Beast Relentless is definitely a great combo card, which no matter what, I think that you should get 4 copies of, because even if he doesn't work out too well right now in Rise of Floodborn, there's definitely going to be ways to just trigger his ability later on and make it a lot more worthwhile. So Beast Relentless is fantastic. Bell Hidden Archer is another great one that she is definitely something to be considered for replacing all the 5-cost characters, because she just needs to quest and that's it. If your opponent challenges her, they have to discard all their cards in hand. Of course, at 5 costs, that's maybe a bit late already and your opponent might not have too much cards in hand left, but it's still good that because it actually restricts their play. Even if they are just top decking, they have to play that one card in hand first and make sure they have to use it no matter what, or it's wasted before they challenge and get rid of Bell Hidden Archer. The only issue, of course, is uninkable. So do you really want to add that much more uninkable cards into your deck? That's something to consider. But yeah, regardless, Bell Hidden Archer is definitely a really good card for the Emerald Ink to play. You'll definitely want her. Scar Vicious Cheater is the one card which I didn't actually put him that high up in my rating if I recall correctly, but after I've seen some videos, I've actually changed my mind. Because with your Shere Khan, actually Scar Vicious Cheater can really gain you the lore really quickly, and it's very advantageous that Scar actually has Rush. She just needs to come in and just keep on challenging your opponent's characters and clear them all up. There's a surprise factor. Meanwhile, your Shere Khan is just there waiting to just help you get lore every single time that Scar actually challenges. So it's a very fantastic idea that you can actually play with the Shere Khan as a boss deck. I think I mentioned this part, but yeah, I think he's a bit better than I've given him credit for. Next, you have Alice Groinger, which is pretty crazy. There was some videos I saw where you can actually have your Alice to actually combo together with your Emerald Ink deck, because you can have your Pain and Panic. The idea is you can have 2 copies of Pain and Alice on the board, and if you actually bring out Panic, Panic can give extra strength to one of the Pains who can quest for 3 lore, but because of support from Alice, that Pain can actually give the strength to the other Pain who can now have extra strength to also just quest for 3 lore. And of course, that Pain can give the strength to Alice, and after that, if you have more characters on the board that actually give more strength to Alice, then yeah, it actually works out. My thought is that even if you don't manage to get her to 10 strength, her being able to give everybody support is actually something that is really strong and works out pretty well in the right deck. So that's something to consider playing as well. So Sapphire Emerald as an aggro deck is a bit combolicious, but I think that's actually why that makes it so much fun, and I think that's one deck I'll actually want to consider trying if I can get 4 copies of Alice for myself. Next, we have Sisu Divine Water Dragon. Very simple, 4-cost character with 2/4 with 2 lore, and every time you quest, you basically kind of draw 1 card. Well, you look at the top 2 cards and you put one in your hand and the other one at the bottom of the deck, which makes it even better. So yeah, you're just gaining card advantage just every single turn as long as you manage to keep Sisu alive. So yes, what's not to like? You definitely want to get her for your Sapphire deck. The only issue is uninkable, but aside from that, this is definitely a very nice card. Then finally, I think this is the final one, is we have Beast Tragic Hero. So Beast Tragic Hero, I think I mentioned this in my card rating video before, but even as a 5-cost character with 3/5 stats, that's still not so bad. It's not the worst thing on earth. But then Beast actually has Shift 3. That aside though, when there's no damage on Beast Tragic Hero, you can actually draw a card on the following turn, and you can keep drawing cards every single turn as long as he doesn't take damage. Or if he's taken any damage, he becomes 7 strength straight away for that turn, and he can basically just crash into any opponent's characters and take them out because 7 strength. That's actually quite a ton. And that's it. So that's all the cards I think that everybody should try to get their hands on for Rise of Floodborn. Some of them, maybe you just want to get them from your packs and then you don't want to buy any copies until the price go down, while some of them is as long as you actually need them for the deck, I think you should definitely buy them right now. My rule of thumb is very simple. If you need the card, you're going to be playing in your deck, then yeah, sure, just get it as long as it kind of fits into your budget. Then don't worry about the prices going up or down, because yeah, the whole idea is going to be playing the card, and that's the value you're going to be getting out of it anyway. But there's a couple which I mentioned in the video that those I think that the prices are quite low at the moment, but they might go up by say set 3. Then yeah, I would say that you should definitely consider trying to get a few more copies of those if they actually fit into the kind of deck that you want to play. And that's the whole idea for all the higher rarity cards from Rise of Floodborn that you definitely want to try and open your packs, or yeah, maybe just buy some single cards to complete the playset. And that's the whole video for me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this video is useful for you to just pick up the cards that you definitely need from the Rise of Floodborn. And see you next one. This is D Summon from Mushu Report, signing out.